Everybody, it is your host, CL King, coming to you live from the High Definition Studios here in Jacksonville, North Carolina, but it's really not Jacksonville. We call this place Impactville. Why? Because to get on this show, you gotta be making an impact. Now, we have spanned many, many months of experiences, some of them positive and some of them not so positive. And so when I look at, and our team gets together to look at strategies to formulate how we can have a better show, I find people that really made a dynamic impact to begin with. And I say, let's get those people back. Sometimes podcasters, they just have the person one time, and then the audience just gets one shot with an amazing person. Well, we're not like that here at Impactville. We have the great, the notorious, the one and only Dr. Catherine Toomer. And she knows that I'm going to give her an introduction worthy of a queen. And the reason why I jest a bit, because Dr. Toomer has been on our show before, and she is a phenomenal physician, a humanitarian, a speaker, a coach, and she has really put her fingerprints on this thing called health and wellness. Now, you know, we have a whole host of different people and different flavors of health and wellness, but one of the reasons why Dr. Toomer got invited back is because of her practical approach. That's like what she says is doable. You know what I mean? I talk about this in one of the chapters in my book. I said, sometimes we think complex is actually effective. I say, man, sometimes just give me some practical steps to get there. And Dr. Toomer is doing that. She's a TEDx speaker. She's a physician of world renown. I'm gonna let her tell you about herself and her credentials. But I do want you to know that beyond all of the resume pieces that she has and she's noteworthy of, she's also an amazing human being. And that's really what Impacting Life 24/7 is about. Her story is gripping because she was faced with some of the very same issues that you guys are faced with, that we are faced with relative to her health. And at some point she was told, hey, you can't do it. But she found a way, and she's going to help you tonight. Put your hands together and welcome to the High Definition Studios, my friend, Dr. Catherine Toomer. Welcome, doctor.
Oh, goodness. I hope I can live up to that.
That's the way I want. That's the exact feeling I'm looking for, doctor.
All right. Well, it's on.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be back with us on Impacting Life 24/7. And I recall, as we were talking in the pre-show, that the last time you were here was during Black History Month. And I had you and another African-American female doctor on, and we were just, our audience's response was just so, it was so palpable, man. People were just like, wow, you got to have those folks back. And so as I'm getting ready to launch this book and go on this tour and be all over the road, I said, man, before we get all that done, I got to have Dr. Toomer back. And so thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us. Dr. Toomer, as you know, we only got 30 minutes, so I got to pull everything out of you that I can get out of you. Okay? So first things first, tell us how people can get up with Dr. Catherine Toomer.
The best way to find me is from my website. I have a contact link, and it's drtoomer.com, drtoomer.com.
drtoomer.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your website. That's
my website. You can also find like my social media links, everything is there. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Are you on TikTok?
About to be.
She's like, hey, look, man, I'll get on whatever you want me to get on. Where's the check at, right? I love it, man. Yeah, and you know, Dr. Toomer, we're very, very thankful to have someone of your caliber and credentials with us on Impacting Life 24/7. And so if you would like to get up with Dr. Toomer, if you're hearing something that along the way, or you would like to check her out even now, just go to drtoomer.com. That's drtoomer.com. And as you guys see, I'm in kind of in a different configuration tonight. I actually kind of like this. I mean, I moved the camera around, and now I'm looking at the big screen. So, man, this might flow. I feel like I might be Phil Donahue or something. So, again, Dr. Toomer, she's joining us here at Impactville. And what we like to do next, Dr. Toomer, is just give us a rehearsal or a recap of who Dr. Catherine Toomer is, so our audience understands the great lady that I'm talking to tonight.
Okay. Well, just very quickly, I am Dr. Catherine Harmon Toomer. I'm the sixth of 8 children of Sam and Frances Harmon, and originally from Michigan, grew up in Kenya, and all of which impacted me into going into medicine. And right now, what I do is I coach individually and also in groups, and I'm also teaching physicians how to do the same, and online mostly right now. And then I'm in the process of opening a community weight health center so that people who normally don't have access to weight loss programs can get that access. And the reason I do all of this is because when I needed help, when I was 100 pounds heavier, I was an insulin-dependent diabetic, went into congestive heart failure after my daughter was born. I couldn't find the help I needed, so I became that doctor myself.
So you're saying you took responsibility for your health and wellness, huh?
I did.
Wow.
I created my own program and lost weight, got off insulin, and survived. I was given a 50% chance of living 5 years, and that was 21 years ago.
Woo, boy, I tell you what, the conviction just came in the room, church. Yes, listen, for those of you that really would like to see those types of results in your life, listen, here's the reality. One thing that I do preach when I go out, and I'm not talking about sermon preaching, I'm talking about just proclaiming, is that we do have to take some responsibility and accountability for our lives. As long as it's somebody else's problem or somebody else's issue, we're never going to be able to address it head on. And so we're blessed to have somebody of this caliber, Dr. Catherine Toomer, from where are you living now?
I'm in South Carolina.
From South Carolina, hailing from Kenya. Man, you just been a globetrotter. So listen, when you were 100 pounds heavier, doctor, what were some of the struggles that you had relative to even getting the ball rolling?
Well, my biggest struggle was fear. I was afraid of failing. As a physician, and all these programs are out there, and most of them are designed for people to fail. Weight loss is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so, and they want repeat customers. So what happens is that you're dependent on the program to lose weight. And then if you cannot maintain that, which most of them you can't, you gain it back and then you pay them again. And so what we end up doing is saying, I lost weight on this program and then I gained it all back, instead of it being the program didn't help me keep it off. Nobody ever says that.
Right. And that's a great insight, man. I don't even think you said that last time. That was so powerful that this is kind of like a revolving door, right? Right. So we give credit and accreditation to the program. And then when we fall off the wagon, then it's our fault, right?
We blame ourselves. And it's designed that way because what that does, it chips away at people psychologically. It makes them weak. And what the programs do is say, well, we can make you stronger. Instead of teaching them how to be stronger, they give this false bolstering. It's like, instead of, putting somebody in a pool, and rather than teaching them how to swim, all they do is just give them floaties.
Yeah.
And then they let the air out.
Oh, that's so good. I am telling you, I'm going to take a clip of that and make that into a commercial. That is legit. For those of you tuning in to our live audience, I'm joined by the great Dr. Catherine Toomer from South Carolina. She is now help me so I can get all of your credentials right, because I'm just a layman. What type of physician are you, doctor?
I'm family medicine and community health physician.
Family medicine and community health.
For the past 25 years. For the past
25 years. And she even dressed up as a doctor on Halloween. So she lives this life. And so, when you become a dependent exclusively on a program, then
Mm-hmm.
that's where, see, and this is what I talk about in my coaching workshops that I do, doctor. So
Mm-hmm.
you just affirmed that I'm on the right track. Is that, listen, people get with me and they think, oh, it's being in CL King's presence that's going to get me to where he is. And it's not that at all. I tell them that the greatness is in you. We
Mm-hmm.
just got to unearth it. We got to show you where it's at. And
Yep.
so so when you were told all these negatives and you were not going to make it and you had a really low chance of survival, what was it for you that was kind of like, okay, this is like in my book, Who Ate My Brownie? It was the
Mm-hmm.
brownie that turned everything around for me. It was like the
Mm-hmm.
start. It wasn't all,
Yeah.
I didn't always get to the finish line, but it was the start. What was it for you?
Mm-hmm. What was it for me was watching my husband, who was already, he was finishing up his fellowship. He was driving 3 hours a day. He would come home and he would have to take care of everything because I couldn't even stand up and brush my teeth.
Wow.
That's how winded I would get.
Right.
And watching him do all this without complaining, trying his hardest to keep me alive. And I was like, I need to work just as hard as he is to keep myself alive. And and so what I did was I just went back to the basics of my medical education. And I just thought biopsychosocial, whatever I do, it has to help me biologically, psychologically, and socially. And so, and I realized that, biologically, I couldn't change a whole lot about what my heart was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And socially, I had a great support system. I lived about 2 miles from my in-laws. My husband was very supportive. And so so then when I looked at my psychology, that's where I faltered. I was in a severe depression and it affected my motivation. It affected every part of, it keeps you in this high stress mode. And so the first thing I did was I got my depression treated. And what that did is it kind of freed up the bandwidth I needed to then focus on the other things.
Wow, that's powerful because again, ladies and gentlemen, tuning in, we're blessed to have Dr. Catherine Toomer, drtoomer.com. She is a friend of this show, and our show really, really is blessed to have someone of her caliber and credentials joining us. Our show is downloaded in 46 states and 30 countries around the world. So I hope that someone, maybe in Kenya tonight, when they download this broadcast, this could be the start for them, doctor, to say, hey man, I gotta figure out, maybe hone in on some things where I can start. And I love what you said about, your biology. Well, I am the size that I am. I have the heart that I have. I can't transplant my heart. So I can't do much there. My social circle is great, but my mind, you know what I mean? My psychology. And oftentimes, do you find that to be the case where folks are trying to attack or, they're trying to take care of one element of that, but really they haven't taken care of the most important? They haven't found where that's at?
Absolutely. I see it all the time. I have people come to me all the time saying, I'm doing everything. I'm eating healthily. I'm exercising. I have a great job. And then when I start looking at what they're doing, they are eating very well and they are exercising regularly, but they're not feeling better. They're not sleeping well. And it's stress. Stress in and of itself can actually make your body think you're diabetic.
Wow.
Stress can drive you into insulin resistance. And so you can be doing everything right, but if you're not taking care of the psychological part, the stress part, it doesn't matter. And that's where a lot of people falter. They underestimate how much wellness contributes to their health.
Yeah, that is so good. And listen, when you look back, thankfully you were able to diagnose, because diagnosis is important, right?
Yes.
Anytime there's a plane crash in the world, they want to know what was the cause or what were the root causes of why it went down. And so, yeah, you're right, man. Because we were talking in the pre-show, and Dr. Toomer gave me a little compliment that I'm halfway looking a little better than the last time I interviewed her. I don't look like Professor
I
Clump.
said healthier. I didn't say
Yeah, healthier. You know what I mean. But anyway, I'm looking like maybe I could get up and go down the stairs without passing out like I was the last time. And the truth of the matter is that there were some indicators that I was ignoring, right? And do you see that also, doctor, that sometimes people will put it off or ignore it, and it's like, oh well, I'll get to it tomorrow. What are some of the dangers of putting off your health and wellness?
The longer you let something go, the harder it is to fix. And so, if you catch, it's easiest to prevent, then it's easiest to treat early, and then the next is difficult, and that's if it goes on for too long. It just takes so much more energy and so much more of everything to pull someone back than it does to stop them from going in the first place.
What is that? A stitch in time saves nine? Is it in that
exactly
old saying? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this in the pre-show, doctor, relative to and again, for those of you that swing by to the High Definition Studios here in Impactville, I'm joined by none other than Dr. Catherine Toomer, and she is a phenomenal physician and, like I said, just an amazing human being. We have such a great yin and yang. I'm over the top and she's chill. You know what I'm saying? So that's a great thing. When we were talking in the pre-show, we were discussing, I didn't necessarily bring it up to you, but the imposter syndrome. That's an issue that you dealt with, right?
Well, I personally don't deal with it. And this is, but I talk about it a lot.
Right. Okay.
And the reason I talk about it a lot is because people are trying to project that onto me. And I didn't really understand what it was.
Yeah.
And when I looked into it, I realized I don't have it. And I couldn't figure out why so many people said that they did. And so what I realized is that it's an imposed phenomenon that we then flip back into ourselves. And so what that does is it makes us believe we can't do the things that are necessary, just anything that's necessary. It manifests in so many different ways, but it is self-described. And the easiest way to prevent it is to stop prescribing it to yourself and tell you we listen to ourselves. We listen to what we say to ourselves and about ourselves. Be kind. We wouldn't let anybody else talk about us the way we talk about ourselves.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that is so true. And the reality is that you be kind to yourself, man. Yeah, don't beat yourself up. Now, one thing I asked you in our pre-show is COVID kind of revealed a lot, and I just wanted to get your snippet thoughts on what do you think COVID revealed to us as a nation, a globe really, but let's say America, about our health and wellness.
Well, what it did was it did a couple of things. First, the good things is that it pulled out the collective knowledge of people and gave us access to them through the internet. Some of which, for the most part, has been good, but then that also brought out a whole lot of folks who don't know what they're talking about, who are trying to help change lives, and usually it's just their own life by lining their pockets, but that's another story. Right. The health and wellness part, though, the other part of that is that it just laid us bare. I mean, it showed all our dirty laundry, all the cracks in our systems, all the places where we faltered and where we let people down. And we're still suffering from that. I mean, the supply chain issues we're having across the board are mainly because we weren't treating employees correctly. We didn't protect them in their health. They suffered the brunt of COVID deaths. And now we have people who either are too scared and refuse to go back, or they can't because they're no longer with us. And so we're all being impacted by what COVID has done. And mainly it's because our health and wellness was suffered because we weren't taking care of ourselves before. The psychology that I talked about before dragged us down even farther. And then we had nowhere to go. We had no soft place to land when that happened.
Whew, man, that's heavy. And when I think about it, I'm like, okay, So me being a Lean Six Sigma green belt, which is nothing more than a fancy name of a process improvement guy, I'm looking at it like, okay, so what are our, here's a buzzword. What are our lessons learned, right?
Mhm.
And I took some lessons for myself because I'm like, you know what? I can't get caught off guard by the next pandemic, and I'm so unhealthy that I lower my chances of survival. And in some cases it was, I know every case is different, and I'm not a
Mhm.
doctor, but I do know that in some cases when people were generally unhealthy, obese,
Mhm.
etc., that made their fight against COVID more difficult. Agree?
Absolutely. Against anything. Um, Higher rates of cancer, higher rates of diabetes, higher rates of death, a shorter lifespan. But COVID really made it obvious
Yeah.
that, and mainly because it affected lungs. When you're large, your lung capacity gets compromised. And
Right.
so people just didn't survive.
Wow. And you've been on this journey now. This is what I want to encourage everybody to hear. Dr. Catherine Toomer, 25 years ago or 21 years ago,
Mhm.
you were 100 pounds heavier, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And so now I guess let's just ask what some of the questions may be. So you must not eat anything during the day, huh?
I eat more now than I did then. I really do.
Yeah,
I absolutely do.
and
And I eat whatever I want too, because I
you
like
enjoy your
food. I
food,
love my
right?
food. I love my food. And there are people who work with me who have actually, because a lot of our interaction has been online. And when
Right.
we finally got a chance to be around one another, they watch me eat. And they're just like, wow, you really, I'm like, I do, I eat. But it's what you eat and how you eat it that
Yeah.
makes the difference. And I learned what works for me, and then I help other people figure out what works for them. Everybody's got a stew. And this is what I say, you have your pillars, you have your stew, the thing that kind of helps you. And everyone gets to that golden spot. And it's just you have to take those pillars and find your golden spot in each of those pillars and put it all together.
Now let me
And
ask you
that's
this. Let me ask you this question relative to
mhm.
maintaining your health. Right.
Yes.
Let's say somebody started out with a particular plan and they did it for years and it was working for them, and then is there a thing like a brick wall? Like, okay, maybe you need to change up what you're doing, or your body may have changed. Is that an
Mhm.
actual thing?
It is. And usually it's genetic. Your genetic catches up to you.
Yeah.
Um, but then age, I mean, there's just natural things that happen with age. There's natural things that happen with hormones you know, um, and so yes, it can happen. But often what you do is what I call fit. It's FITT. And all you do is you take what you're doing and you increase something. And you either increase the frequency, the intensity, the timing, or the type. And that's basically what you do.
We should put that on a T-shirt, sister. What are we doing? We need some hoodies with FITT on it. We can make some money. That's powerful. So,
Yeah.
look, I want you guys to connect with Dr. Toomer and get in her coaching program. She is a phenomenal. I told y'all y'all would love her. She's a phenomenal human being. But let's just, for the sake of repetition, so that King can
Mhm.
hear it again. What does FIT stand for?
Frequency, intensity, time, or type.
Yeah, what you've got to increase one of those, and I believe
Mhm.
that to be the case, doctor, even in like the entrepreneurial world, right?
Yes.
When you
It works across the
it
board.
works
It really
across
just
the
works across the
board.
board.
Yeah, yeah. And so my wife sometimes says, "Why are you always running your mouth?" I said, "Because I gotta. This is what writes the check, sweetheart. So I got to do it often." Yeah, and so that's very, very powerful. So when someone is going to go through a coaching session with you, what
Mhm.
does that look like? I mean, day one, I pull up, we're on Zoom or whatever we're on. What's gonna be our interaction? What's that gonna look like?
A lot of talking on your part. What I say is I let people just talk and talk and talk, and then I listen for the whispers behind their words. And then I take that and figure out what people need and then guide from there. Because it can't be my process. It cannot be mine. It cannot be dependent on me. I can guide, but I can't be so much of a part of it that if I step away, it falters. So
That's
I
good.
have to listen to people to figure out who they are, to guide them where they need to go. It can't be my plan. It has to be theirs.
Right. And those three areas that you talked about, relative to your psychology, your biology, and your sociology,
Hmm.
do you do an analysis of that though? I mean,
Of all of it.
yeah.
I do a health analysis. I do a behavioral health analysis. I do a nutrition analysis. Um, and then I kind of put that all together. And then at a certain point, now my program is not exercise heavy, mainly because I could not exercise at all when I developed it. But
Right.
what I do is once you get to your baseline, it's easier to tell what your body can and cannot do. And from there, then we start adding different types of exercises that would help and help in a way that it either can be help to help calm for calm. It could be for stress relief. It
Right.
could be for muscle toning. It could be for social time, something they do like yoga with their 4-year-old because 4-year-olds love to sit and do yoga. So it just depends on what's needed as to what physical activity we end up incorporating.
Okay, that's good. And I do believe, like I told you, I used to do some really extreme stuff when I was trying to
Hmm.
get back in shape because the Marine Corps is extreme, and I'm a former
Hmm.
Marine, so I figure, well, everything that I need to do is extreme. I know I'm an
Hmm.
extra person, I know I'm extra doctor, but I realize that I can't do everything extreme, and I have to recognize my age, my body type,
Hmm.
all those things evolve. They
Yeah,
change.
they change.
And then when you go and try to go extreme and you
Hmm.
don't see the same results that you did before, then it just must not work. You know what
Or
I
it can
mean?
injure you.
Or it
You can
can
get
injure you.
injured.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm laid out dead on the floor. My wife's like, "What happened? What was he doing? He was doing Sean T's insanity. He still thinks he can do it."
Well, the
So
key is to meet yourself where you are. So if you continue doing it all the way through, then that's fine. But if you
right.
stop and then try to go back to where you were before, often it doesn't work. And so my philosophy is always whatever you're doing now, you need to be able to do when you're 90. So that way nothing changes.
Ooh, man, that's so good. I told you these nuggets are amazing, y'all. We should charge for this podcast because this is too rich.
Oh, I
Again,
start charging.
I'll make sure you
No,
get
it's
your
all
cuts, sister. No, again, Dr. Catherine Toomer from South Carolina, an absolute amazing physician and a health and wellness doctor who, number one, she tells you, and this is what a disclaimer on this show, seek your medical advice from your physician. But here's what I also know, that it's good to talk to other people who have been there and done that. You know what I'm saying? When I had my back surgery back in 2016, doctor, they told me I was going to be on pain management for the rest of my life. In other words, I was going to
Wow.
get oxycodone for the rest of my
Mhm.
life, right?
Mhm.
And after 3 or 4 years of that, of missing, I noticed my speaking skills started slacking. I mean,
Mhm.
I wasn't nearly as sharp. I was just in a fog all the time. I said, man, there's got to be
Mhm.
something else,
Yeah.
And so had I just listened to what the doctor said exclusively and not had some other insights about taking control of myself, then I wouldn't have been able to get off of it. And I ain't been on it.
Yeah.
I haven't been on pain management in 24, 48 months. I mean, 36 months.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm
Good for
I'm
you.
I'm thankful for people like you that say, hey, listen, you're going to have to look internally. We're going to have to look at you first, and you're going to have to take responsibility. But I also believe that coaches are valuable and coaches are important.
Mhm.
And we have coaches for football, basketball. We have coaches for baseball. But then when we come to this temple here, we just kind of wing it.
Yeah. But the thing is, and we don't do that for our cars, but we'll do it for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So Dr. Catherine Toomer is starting off the week with us. And again, Doctor, what I'm going to do, because man, look at that. It's 7:29. Did you see how fast that went, Doctor?
Well, yeah, it goes fast,
Like
doesn't
it
it?
goes fast when you're dealing with somebody who's amazing. So, Doctor, what I like for you to do is I like for you to just give our audience, take a minute or two, and
Mhm.
give a word of encouragement to our listening audience who's out there. They're like, man, I'm I'm getting ready to go into the holidays. I know I'm gonna gain 75 pounds. I've tried this, I've tried that, but when you go to Dr. Toomer's website, you'll see her before and after pictures. And seeing is believing. But here's the bigger belief: is that she's done it for 2 decades. It wasn't just a quick fix; it was a lifestyle. And so, Doctor, I turn the floor over to you.
Well, what I would like to say is for anyone who is concerned about gaining weight over the holidays, they can keep an eye out for my webinar because I always do one around this time, or they can go to my YouTube channel and see what I say about eating through the holidays. I eat through the holidays, always have and have for the last 20 years. So, and not gain weight and ate. So just know that that's not true. But the other is just to be kind to yourself, give yourself some grace, and start from where you are. Don't compare yourself to anybody else's process.
So I love what she said. She said, be kind to yourself. Don't compare yourself. I talk about the self-made man in my speech, Don't Drop the Hammer. The one thing about the self-made man, the image of the self-made man, is he has a hammer and a chisel, and half of his body is all sculpted out. He's all muscular, and the lower half is a solid granite rock. But if he was in today's society, he'd be looking at what everybody else posting and never fix himself. So you got to, number one, you got to look within, and you got to be nice to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Dr. Catherine Toomer can I just go ahead and ask, would you come on the show again to help us?
Absolutely. I will.
Because
Absolutely.
you just, the way your approach is what I'm saying. Like, okay, when I listen to Dr. Toomer, I feel like I can do it. You know what I mean? And that's important because if you make it so complex, people will give up after day number one, huh?
It's not easy. Well, let me put it this way. It is easy, but it's not always simple. So we got to kind of break it apart and help people through the process, but it's doable.
It's doable. Yeah.
It is doable.
And I'm going to be doing it too. Cause listen, man, like I said, I'm 47 years older than my granddaughter, and you just gave me hope that I could see her graduate from college and get married. Really? You know, I'll be there for it. So Dr. Catherine Toomer, an amazing human being, amazing physician. Thank you so much, Doctor. We really appreciate you. You can let yourself out the room. We will talk to you again soon, okay?
All right.
God bless you, Doctor. So, wow, man. Wasn't that awesome, y'all? Dr. Catherine Toomer, she's an amazing human being. I'm telling you, she's got the vibe for what she's doing. She's got the heart for it. And, just go to drtoomer.com, drtoomer.com. And one day I'll have an engineer off-site that handles all my sound and everything, so I don't have to do nothing but just show up. That's the next level, y'all. But until then, hey, listen, man, we just wanted to start your week out with someone positive, someone dynamic, someone that's realistic, and say, hey, man, listen, this is an impact. Your health impacts everything you do in life. Do you know that if you do not have your health, you do not have anything at all? All the money, all the acclaim, all the fame, everything. If you lose your health, none of that stuff matters. And over the past 24 months, we have had to stare the reality in the face that we were generally unhealthy as a people. And COVID just revealed how unhealthy we are. Well, Dr. Toomer, she looked at herself one day at 100 pounds overweight. Her husband's taking care of everything in life, and says, you know what? I can't. This has got to be, this is a revelation for me. And so she also told me something encouraging. Her daughter, who's 24, has conversations regularly with her mother, who's 90 something. So the genes are doing well relative to health. So you can do this too. So go to drtoomer.com, drtoomer.com. And when you reach out to her, tell her that you saw her on the Impact in Life 24/7 show, okay? It is the International Podcast, and I don't have a guest tomorrow. We had to reschedule someone. So listen, man, the book launch party is November the 19th at 7 p.m. We'll have Tabari Wallace in the studio to help us host the podcast. So you're gonna want to be a part of it. Reserve your seat, reserve your spot, man. Just go to my page and see the launch party link event. Be a part of it, man. Who Ate My Brownie is going to change some lives. We can't wait to do it. Talk to you again real soon on Impact Life 24/7 with your host, CL King.